Hi everyone, I'm Allie Buckman and I am coming at you live from our Hagerstown, Maryland headquarters location here on a beautiful sunny day. And I want to continue to do these live events about every Friday. Hopefully we can hit that at 1 o'clock, so you can kind of cue that for a regular. You can subscribe also to Facebook or to YouTube videos also to get those regularly as well. But I'm going to try to come to you Fridays at 1. I've been doing this as the third series here. And keep in mind that if you share this and comment, last week we gave away purple. This week the lovely Bridget just came up like a Vanna White, and I am giving away a blue kit of beads with some different blue exclusives, and blues will be this kind of grab bag giveaway. So if you want to win the giveaway and you want to try to get your hands at the blue, you can comment and share this video and we'll be happy to send it to you also. So keep back and check back too to ask additional questions. Like all of the different ones that I've done before, if you have additional questions or want to comment on things that I am talking about or offer suggestions to help increase and make our better kind of beader community even bigger, people have made some suggestions and commented actually after the fact of the video on some ideas. So I'm going to touch on that. So remember, you can always comment after these videos, help each other out, check up our YouTube, our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making, and you can answer and ask questions there as well. I also usually post there sometime during the week to see if there are any additional questions. Sometimes it's the same questions that come through, so I really know I need to hit on those topics. Also, to let you know, we are introducing a new series of YouTube videos called Better Beader videos. And these are things that I'll go over in the different tips and tricks, and probably touched on most of them in the different YouTube videos. But these are going to be nice, quick tutorials or quick tips or quick ideas to kind of get you through to the next level of beading. So check those out too. We'll be coming out hopefully once a month with those Better Beader videos as well. It's hard to say there. So again, share and click too, and give me a little comment if you want to win the fun blue bag. So it was kind of a crazy busy week here at Potomac Bead Company. I wanted to start out by saying thank you for all of you guys that joined us last week for the video. And I wanted to touch on some things, like I said, that people had suggested in the comments of the video after the video, so to build onto that. If you didn't get a chance to join us last week, you can always go back and watch the Facebook Live from last week, as always, to read through those comments, because there's a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of additional questions, a lot of links, and a lot of better information basically than I can feed to you in an hour, and I've gone back and answered some of those questions. My favorite suggestion from somebody last time, based on one of the videos, I did the carrier bead video. I thought I had it sitting here, but it disappeared. But somebody said that they actually use double-sided tape to hold their cover on their carrier beads. So when they're doing the carrier beads, and that was a suggestion from Kathy, she said, I adhere carrier beads with two-sided tape. That is a great suggestion. So Kathy, you get a thumbs up for today for an awesome suggestion on the last video, that when you go in and you do those, that way it makes it not permanent, but they are going to stay on there, so that will work. Jackie, you're asking about a list for beads and sizes. Let me know what you mean by that, and I'm happy to get that for you too. The idea of this is more that it's a question and answer rather than an actual making a project. So we're happy to kind of appease you on that. When I put out the questions and the idea for questions for this week, and actually we're going to kind of list on to some others, there were some simple questions that I just wanted to hit on. And one of the first ones was that somebody wanted to make eyeglass covers. And they said, I want to make something because it's summertime. I don't want to lose my sunglasses or my reader glasses. What do I use, or what do I look for at the end of those? So I wanted to show you, these are the ones that we carry. These are the gold plated, and then there's also the silver plated. And these are the eyeglass covers. You can actually build your own with a little rubber hair tie as well and some wire, but these come already done. When you pull them out of the package, if you do want to do an eyeglass holder, you're going to actually take your beading wire or your chain, and I can even show you a little suggestion if you want to make them changeable. You can put lobster clasps on the ends, and then you can actually pinch them onto the lobster clasps, and you can make whatever you want. So you can actually take a necklace if you add another lobster clasp, or add a jump ring to the end of the link here and then a lobster on that, you can take any necklace that you already have done and then make that into an eyeglass holder. So that's a cool suggestion, that you don't even need to make a new one. You can use your own necklace and add a little lobster on each end, and then you'll be able to link on, or you can make one as well. The problem with a lot of eyeglass holders, just as a little suggestion that you're looking at it, is a lot of times I will recommend to people taking that little spring that's in the middle, and the same when you're doing this for the ends of leather. If you have the little coil, take your pliers, either a needle nose pliers, pinch down the end of one of those, and that's going to make it so it stays. So it'll stay on there and stay to the exact measurement of your glasses. If you're doing a lot of different pairs of glasses, don't do that, just kind of push it up. That little cording piece moves around, but if you want it to stay in the middle, just give a little pinch to that. And then again, a fun little suggestion, add a lobster or a jump ring, and then you can take any necklace and actually make it into an actual eyeglass. So that was a question that I had kind of on the day. Also, going along with the kind of random questions of the day, one question I had from my beading mentee was that her husband said that beading is for old ladies. And I said, no, show me your husband and tell me that it's for old ladies. I don't consider myself an old lady. So I wanted to show in some of the different videos that I'm doing is kind of very modern twists on some things that might look a little bit older, because you think, oh, the crocheted necklace back from, you know, the 80s, or everything comes back in style, number one. Number two, you can take a more classic style like this Silky spiral and hang it from a leather cording, which is going to right away kind of modernize it and make it also, one, you don't have to do a full bracelet, so it's not going to take you nearly as long. This is actually one of the videos that I just recorded yesterday, so that will be coming out. But it's a take on tubular kind of spiraled peyote and how to make it have that more modern look rather than having it look like kind of a big chunky piece of jewelry. Same thing here. This one here is just the netted round, and I have YouTube videos on that, taking some of the end cones and then attaching chain to it as well. Again, you can also do this if you have bracelets that you don't wear that often. Just take them and attach them to an actual chain, and you have an instant necklace as well. So some of these stitches take forever. And if I want to do a bracelet, I've got to bead the whole second way around. I can take this, especially a lot of you guys are learning different stitches, which is awesome. You may want to take that simple small piece, throw it on a piece of leather, throw some kind of cones on the end and attach to chain, and then you have the nice example as you're learning the piece. You can do that with peyote, you can do it with anything in the round. Things that are done in the round or tubular in shape do take more time to create. That's why it's kind of nice to just make a nice short piece and then slip it on a piece of leather as well. And this here, just so you know, is tubular peyote. So it's a tubular spiral peyote stitch. And then this one here is netted. And we have different YouTube videos for those as well. So yeah, I didn't intend to do a lot on kind of converting different pieces of jewelry from this to that, but that's what that little session ended up as. And I may even take one of my necklaces and make myself a pair of eyeglass holders, since I'm constantly losing them as well. All right, we'll go to the next question here. What are some good ways that you can end Kumihimo when you can't find a clasp? So actually I have the netted round here, but I'm going to use this as my first example for that. When it comes to Kumihimo, one of the hard things is anytime there's braiding, anytime you're working with a leather, it's going to be difficult to know exactly what size cone end that you need. Sometimes you can trim down the leather on each side or the Kumihimo project on each side and kind of shove it into a beading cone, but don't limit yourself to that. One, check out some end cones. So the end cones, you can actually put beads around and kind of decorate, and try a bunch of them off the ends, and you can actually make loops at the end of your Kumihimo or even your tubular piece. Another idea, if you're using tubular Kumihimo or beaded Kumihimo, you can actually seam up the beads around the end. We also went over last time that if you have, oh, here's my carrier bead piece. I'm going to slide that carrier bead off. If you want to, you can take another piece of beading that you do. So this one is the peyote stitch. You can take a piece of peyote stitch and actually make your own cap. by just making it a little bit smaller, making it to fit around the Kumihimo, and then putting a nice rounded bead at the end. So you can always take a simple piece of peyote strip like this one here that I could use double-sided tape, thank you Kathy, to adhere that onto it, and you can use that peyote strip to cover any little blemishes that you have, to cover knots, to end any of the ending of your jewelry. So look at those different kind of suggestions. I could even have made one a little bit smaller to do a cap on this as well. So don't ever think that because you're locked into one stitch, you can't add another stitch or another piece to it. So there's a little idea for you. And I know that's not a perfect how do you end your Kumihimo. I end my Kumihimo with a fair amount of glue, and I usually use the wildfire beading thread. So I'm just using regular beading thread, and I tie a knot around it to secure it, and then I make sure the glue goes on the beading thread well. I almost always will put a cap on the end of the Kumihimo because I like the look of that, but you can build yourself an actual cap with some seed beads. You can twist some wire and build that as well too for you. So there's some of that. Okay. Nancy. So Nancy wanted to know, she said, I'd like to know about new beads, 2 and 3 millimeter, and how to use them, and can they be used in place of seed beads? So this works out well. I could probably just use this example for every question today, this new spiraled here peyote. So in the spiraled peyote, as you can see, simple jewelry, it's hot out today, but I love, these are some of their glue-in settings with pearls, and then just one of the large hole pearls, nice and simple. I love the look of pearls. So instead of using all seed beads when I was doing this peyote stitch, I actually went in and put the 2 millimeter pearls in place. They give it that nice kind of ocean look, and they sit a little bit more rounded. So for your designs, if you're thinking of using a 2 or a 3 millimeter bead, you need to think of that they're not shaped like a seed bead. They're going to be more rounded in nature. So if you're using a 3, you want to think of, if you are using it in a round, you're going to see sometimes extra thread. Every once in a while, you'll need to add 15 O's or even some 15 Charlottes in between to hide that thread. But most basic stitches, if you're doing regular peyote, if you're doing a nice line even with the tubular peyote, you can see I threw those 2 millimeter rounds right there next to my 8 seed beads. Additionally, instead of using like a 6 seed bead, which is in the center of a lot of the Celinis, I used a 2 by 3 millimeter crystal rondelle. So you do with the Celini stitch, sometimes with the actual rounded beads and those smaller beads, you can use them in place of seed beads. When you are talking size-wise, so the 2 millimeter bead here is going to be a little bit smaller. It's about the same width as an 8 seed bead in the Miyuki. It's going to be a little bit more slender than the Toho, since the Toho sits a tiny bit thicker. So you can see kind of the size mix there, and that it's going to be a little bit smaller. The 8 seed bead is going to be like, I think it's a 2.6. I'd have to look that up to do the exact. I have a conversion chart too that you can check out in a blog post about it. But the 3 millimeter bead is going to be more of between an 8 and a size 6 bead. So if patterns call for 6s or 8s, you can try out the 2 and the 3 millimeter. Gives it a totally different look. I like the rounded look actually personally, rather than throwing in those large seed beads. I don't know, I was just commenting yesterday, for some reason I have I'm not a fan of 6 seed beads. They have big holes. It's hard to work with for me for the designing I do. So I'd much rather pick up a 3 millimeter bead, work with a 3 millimeter bead, and work that into the actual peyote. So Nancy, go for it. Anytime that you want to try a new bead out in place of an old bead in a pattern, obviously it's going to look different, but keep in mind you can usually substitute a 2 for an 8 and you can substitute a 3 for a 6 They will be slightly smaller than those beads, and remember, they're not going to have generally as big of a hole, and they have more of that rounded look. But try it out. A lot of times you can stick an extra 15 seed bead on each side of the 3 millimeter bead, and that's going to sit perfectly in some of those designs. So those beads, we're actually increasing a lot of the ones that we carry. We have some gemstones in 2 millimeter faceted rounds. They are gorgeous. I just saw a design where somebody was doing them in Kumihimo and working with those too. So check out those different beads and definitely mix them in. I'm still a gemstone person with my pearls on too, so I like to work them into that. Somebody was asking about that they don't lose their coating and color. Yeah, so bead woven cones, that's a great thing from Teresa was saying, if you do make your own cones out of seed beads, where you have a brass that's not going to change colors, if you're using a silver plated or something like that, and you do all this work, sometimes coatings and colors do come off. Just like I mentioned in the last Q&A, you're getting what you are paying for as far as that's concerned. Another person said, what is your favorite new bead? So, my favorite new bead, I've done actually a lot this week with new beads and playing around. One of my favorite new beads is going to be actually the candy bead. We have a larger candy bead that just came out, and it is a 12 millimeter candy. I paired it up here. You get a sneak peek at one of the new bracelets. This is called Birds of Paradise, and it pairs up really well with some of our other 2-hole beads. It's nice to have the 2 holes in a larger bead. So this bead here is a 12 millimeter candy bead. It's a little bit hard to see in the bracelet, so I brought them up. And the 2-hole candy, the other thing, it works out really well. It has a decent size hole. You could use it with 0.8 stretch. Do a simple bracelet, just linking them together, putting a simple 11-0 seed bead in the middle, and having fun with the new candies. So I would say the candy bead is kind of my fun favorite bead of the week. We also have a fair amount of new beads as well. One thing that just came out, you may have seen the video, or it's coming out shortly, I think it just came out, was that half silkies. So the half silkies, which are actually more about a 3/4 of a silky, those work really well because of their triangular shape, mixing with the silkies that are already in place. So those were really fun to play with. Anna did this design, and then I kind of embellished in the middle a little bit of her design working with those. So those are 2 of the newer beads that I worked with this week. And then you may have also seen, again, I've got this thing for pearls. So here is, a lot of you request different projects using the just seed beads and not working with any 2-hole. There's times and places where you essentially have to have 2 holes, and then there's other times where you don't need them. So I did a simple right angle weave base and just embellish on this tidal wave bracelet. So the 12 millimeter candy beads are going to be the same size as a 12 millimeter Rivoli, but you want to keep in mind, I have 14s and I've got a 14 here. I'll get that out just to show you. You want to keep in mind, if you are looking to bezel set it or anything, you're going to have a flat surface for the candy bead versus the actual Rivoli, which is going to be pointed at the back. So this is a 14, so it's obviously going to be a little bit bigger than the candy bead, but you could look, there are multiple uses for these. If you do find a color and a coating that you like, you could use it actually to glue into one of the findings. So this is actually another question that it leads me into. Just quickly, while I finish this session, I'll give you a sneak peek at some of the videos coming up. So we have the double Dutch earrings. Had a busy week kind of making new designs for you guys. Playing around with some of the beautiful clasp garden clasps and making this nice chunky cuff bracelet, as well as going along with some of our older beads. We have some new, we had a request from a Tracy, you guys might know her from doing some of the other videos, that she wanted the Luna cabs in a bigger size, so we got those in as well. When you are then going back to another question here, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm jumping around a little bit today, but one thing is leaning into another. So looking at the different things, comments and questions that people have had throughout the weeks. Another question, because I've used them recently in a number of different videos, are our Potomac's clasps. So the Potomac's clasps we have in production that you can actually drop in and glue in your own finding. So there's silver in the smaller, there's silver in the bigger, and there's some also that have etched designs. We're doing these in conjunction with a lot of the higher end clasps with the idea that you may want to make it your own. So a lot of the different videos that you will see, or the bracelets that you see, you really want to embellish it and you don't find the correct clasps. Clasps are something that are very individualized. If you're going to take the time to make a project and you want the clasp to match, like I did here with this clasp garden clasp, I wanted the clasp to mimic the design. Because it's so personalized, I don't want to have this in so many different colors. That was the idea behind the Potomac's Clasps. Just like I have kind of that earring finding that I could drop in whatever I wanted, that's the idea of the Potomac's Clasps. The Potomac's Clasps are designed to fit our Potomac's brand Rivolis. I had a customer that called earlier this week that was asking about our 10mm Rivoli Potomac's Clasp. What I wanted, and she said she had a 10mm Swarovski Rivoli. The 10mm Swarovski Rivoli is actually a 10.7, so this is kind of the difference between those. You can see the slight difference in size from the Swarovski to the Potomac crystal. The findings are designed that they can fit either, but one is actually going to fit better than the other and sit a little bit more recessed. So if you want it to sit a little bit more recessed, that's the Potomac's 10. If you want it to sit right to the edge, that's going to be the Swarovski 10.7. One of the reasons that we have the 10mm in the actual Potomac Crystal Rivoli, and this was actually one of the starting reasons for us doing that, is that the numbers of colors that are available in the 10mm Swarovski Rivoli are actually decreasing. They're not carrying and they're not stocking as many. So we wanted to make sure that that size and those colors were still available. As the crystals get larger, I actually use them less frequently. I tend to use smaller crystals in the designs, so that's why we started out with the 10. When you're looking at then some of the larger ones here, and I'll open up a pack, they're going to look the exact same. The Potomac's Rivolis tend to look a little bit kind of thicker around the edge, just ever so slightly, and they're actually a little bit heavier than the Swarovski Rivolis. So I have a Potomac's Rivoli in my right hand, and I have the Swarovski Rivoli in my left hand, and there's no size difference other than that kind of tiny little bit of a lip. It's not going to matter though when you enter and add that to the Potomac's clasp. It is going to fit exactly that 14mm in its shape. In addition, the 10mm Rivoli came about because, let's see if I have a cup button sitting here. I've been using the faceted cup buttons. It will sit, it's going to be hard to show here, but it'll sit exactly in the center of one of the cup buttons. So you can take our cup buttons, I've made studs with them, you can take the cup buttons and actually use the 10mm Rivoli inside the middle. You cannot fit the Swarovski 10.7 in a cup button. Only the Potomac's 10 will fit in there. They're just kind of so happened that they fit perfectly. The other Potomac's clasps that we're doing also, for those of you that love gemstones, love that oval shape, are some gemstones, and you'll be able to see my mood here in this mood cab. It's kind of fun to watch it change colors. Are some of the Potomac's clasps that you can actually pop the gemstones in. So this is an oval Potomac's, and that you can do the actual cab in. I had somebody else, so that's kind of touching on those different cabs and the ideas of really personalizing and making your own. The bracelet that I did earlier this week, this Kiss of the Crown one, I did want to show off the clasp. I did another bracelet last week too, making sure to show off that beautiful Potomac's clasp and making it part of the design. And the nice thing is, then you can add your own color to the clasp. The other question that somebody wanted to know is the different types of glue and the best type of glue to glue into leather. So I figured while I'm talking about Potomac's clasp, I'll go over that as well, as far as what do you use to actually glue into them and hold them in place. So you can use regular super glue, but it is not, I would not recommend it. One thing, when you glue down, people will say the faux pas is when you have a silver backing like the Potomac clasp, that you don't want to use glue because it'll take off the silver backing. You're gluing it to silver anyway, and you're not going to get it out. It's not like you're going to take a super glue and re-get it out again. It's not going to really affect the integrity of the back. The glue that we prefer, and actually this is one of Anna's fun experiments that she has going on. If you haven't checked out her blog post about the durability of some of the different Czech coatings, you may want to do so. Check out that blog post. Again, we'll put a link of that in the comments section below. And she is also doing the same thing now, trying out the different types of glues. So I have different types of glues kind of sitting here that we are trying out, and then she has another, I think 2 more brands also. That one of the things that we like to do is actually test our products, because like we say always, we want to make you a better beader. We want you to make better products. We want you to make better informed decisions and to have that lasting product that does stay. For the Potomac's clasps, I tend to use the E6000 glue. When you're using the E6000 glue, I like these little tiny tubes. Eventually what's going to happen with super new glue, you'll figure that out. This holds on really well, but if you forget to push that top on, you'll get kind of that dry rot at the top of it. Super glue, the same. You can think about kind of fishing line gets dry rot. The super glue eventually is going to dry rot. I still use it to have the ends of my stretchy string tied off, and still use super new glue a lot. I'm generally not using super glue or super new glue anytime I am gluing to metal. It's not designed for that. It's not designed for that bonding. That's where I'm going to pick up the E6000 glue. The E6000 glue, I like the small tubes because again, they do, if you have a big tube, it's eventually going to dry out. They get kind of gummy. When you open the tube at first, it flows out nicely. Think about toothpaste too. It flows out nicely. Towards the end, it kind of gets hard and it's harder to use, and I don't think that bond happens as great. When you are curing or letting things dry, going from super glue, going from hypo cement, going from E6000, allow extra time from the actual allotted time. So if it says, I think E6000 says 20 minutes to touch or something, I literally leave about 12 hours for it to cure. I would rather make sure that glue is completely dry, completely set before I go in and work with the project. Gluing on leather, you may want to try that hypo cement. The hypo cement is done or is recommended for fabrics. So I've used the E6000 for gluing onto leather, and it depends on which type of leather you're gluing onto. If I'm gluing the leather into the ends of this ribbon cord, I'll just use some E6000. I may even honestly use some super new glue because it's quick, it dries fast, it's there. If you want to bond something onto leather, if you want to cover, I had shown on 2 Facebook Lives ago some of the awesome cuffs that Anna is making. You may want to look at trying out the hypo cement. So check out those different projects as well, and that way you'll get a better idea of, depending on, it's going to change in every type of situation. Are you gluing metal to metal? Are you gluing metal to glass? Are you gluing a stone to metal? And some of the different porousness of the different stones are also going to affect how the glue kind of soaks up. So I got that. I love the hypo cement. So there you go. There's a little one for the hypo cement. But the different types of gluing, it's really a personal thing to some degree, and then product trying out. One thing I would recommend, if you are using a gemstone and you are actually gluing onto gemstone, there's a lot of repairs that I've done bringing in projects that people have stones that have fallen out. If you take actually a back of a emery board or a little file down, it would not work with the mood cabs. Don't do it with the mood cabs because they're a resin. But if you are working with gemstones, you can file down the back of the gemstone a little bit, rough it up, and that's going to make a better way for it to bond and actually adhere to the actual metal. If you're gluing something onto a metal that doesn't have any little puncture holes or is completely flat, you may also want to rough up the back of a metal with a wire brush, and that's going to make that actually adhere better when you're getting 2 rougher surfaces rather than 2 super smooth surfaces. All of these glues actually do clean up really nicely. As we said too, that you'll be able to kind of get the glue off. The E6000, because it does have a cure time, it will allow you to get it off. Also check out, I didn't bring it up here, but resin. We have a 1-part resin that you can also use in some of these settings. You could cut out or do a little piece of a flower or something like that and actually glue the resin. I have a YouTube video showing how to do that. I also did it on one of my Facebook Lives showing you some of that resin that you can drop in and use the actual Potomac's clasps and some of those empty bezels to make your own design, not necessarily picking up the actual Rivoli or the actual cabs. So I think we touched on most of that, and I am going to see here. So another question was, with peyote stitch, does it only have to be with Delicas? Can I use regular seed beads? I'm going to try it out for the first time, and I'm just curious. So obviously, tubular peyote, you can use any bead that you want. When you get into the hardships of which bead you're going to use and if you should use Delicas or not use Delicas, is you're going to want to look at, are you following a pattern or are you doing your own form? When you are working with peyote stitch, the Delicas I do not prefer to use when I am doing peyote in the round. They are really, really sharp. They are really tight. So let me find my peyote cover here. When you're doing a pattern, yes, use the Delica beads if the pattern already calls for them. There's actually a bunch of different patterns out there that you can switch off from the Delicas for just regular 11-0 beads, even if you're working on carrier beads. But when you are doing peyote in the round, I would stay away personally from the Delicas. It's really hard to bend and it's really sharp, and it just almost, you kind of hear that crunching noise because the Delicas have really thin walls. They are a beautiful bead. They're manufactured wonderfully and they sit wonderfully next to one another, but I use them more for flat peyote rather than doing them in a tubular peyote. So that's my only disclaimer there. But other than that, I mean, we have factory packs of seed beads. You can plan to do it in 8-0. So you can do, we just restocked our factory packs. This is the metallic light bronze. And we've actually, a number of you guys have been purchasing tons of factory packs, so thank you for that. Because there are metallic seed beads, especially the Crystal Lab full 11-0s we just got back in stock. I can go through 100 grams of those super quickly, so keep that in mind. But try out, the Delica bead is a little bit more expensive. Like I said, if you are doing a flat patterned like the actual carrier bead covers, the look of the Delica is really hard to beat. If you're following a pattern that you want to try to actually get faces or some of the elaborate ones that people do, nature scenes, they are gorgeous. You will most likely need Delicas. You can change that out to 11-0s, but the pattern is going to look different because there is a different shape in it. Most designs where it calls for an 11, you'll want to use an 11. It will specifically say Delica if you need to use a Delica, or it'll say tube versus round. Some people will refer to the regular 8-0 seed beads or 11-0 seed beads or 15 as rounded seed beads versus the Delica bead. So I've already gone over a lot, but I just wanted to mention again, if you have any additional questions, you want to post them in, you can post them. I still have a couple on my list here. Also, if you comment and share, you have your chance to win our Freebie Friday giveaway, which last week was pink and purple. This week is oceany and blue. It's kind of going with the theme of the week of a lot of the different videos and bracelets that I've done. I can't get away from blue. And Bridget put together a lovely kit for you to try to get and win on this Facebook Live as well. Last week we went over a ton of information and got through a ton of different comments, and I still have some from this week. One of the things that I promised you is the alternative bead shapes. So towards a little bit longer, we will go in and I will get those alternative bead shapes to you. The alternative bead shapes also, I'm going to be using as some of those better bead videos showing what you can use in place of other beads. This list is so incredibly deep, and I may not even be thinking of things, and I'll ask for your suggestions that you say, yeah, I tried that out, but in certain patterns it doesn't work, and certain patterns it does. So this is really one of those things that the community, if you help us out with this, it's even better because we are getting more and more ideas and we are growing together. So I'll be going over that in a little bit. One of the other things that I am going to kind of take you guys on the move downstairs and show you is how to search the YouTube site. One of my other questions was, you have so many projects on YouTube. Yes, I do. Actually, this week we reached 1,000 videos. So we have now over 1,000 videos on YouTube, which I was crazy to hear about, that we have over 1,000 videos to help you to introduce products, to show you what's going on in the beading world, and really just build this amazing craft and art and community. So thank you to you guys for watching. That pushed us to get to those 1,000 videos. Because they are 1,000 videos, people sometimes will comment or say this video, and I can't remember 1,000 names. So I want to show you how to search the YouTube videos based on the beads, because even though I created them, I designed a lot of the videos, and I saw Tracy's watching, thank you for some of hers, and Marissa was watching, thanks for some of hers. When I can get Anna to do some videos, I like to throw those in, and Teresa, if she gets to some videos, those are awesome too. But it really does kind of strive us to be better, to teach you guys, or to teach you as well, how to do some of those different stitches. Because there are so many beads, getting back to that, and because there are so many amazing designs on there from some amazing contributors, I want to show you how to look through the different YouTube channel based on the bead. A lot of times you will have a bead, especially if you were one of the lucky people to get some of our grab bags. You're looking through the bag and you say, what do I do with this silky bead? I have these silky beads. I don't know the name of a pattern. I don't know what to do. So actually, while we're talking about it, I'm going to take you on a walk down here through our headquarters location and show you kind of the funness of that there. And we are going to, this may be, I'll do this as a YouTube video as well, but let me show you here. So I'm gonna, okay. So as you're doing the YouTube page, I have the YouTube page here, and I'm on the youtube.com/PotomacBeadCo. Again, there are so many videos here. You can go to playlist, you can look at the videos. I'm just at the home button here, and see that little magnifying glass right there for you. That magnifying glass, I can type on that. I can type in something like round duo. Any bead video that uses round duo beads will come up in that search. So then I can scroll down, look through maybe that bag that I got on the for the grab bags, and I have a couple extra beads, and you can look through there and look at all the different designs using those beads. Also, there's usually product spotlights on those, so if I'm looking, like I was saying back up here, and I know it's having a little bit of trouble kind of focusing some, but I was saying like the silky bead. If I type silky bead into that search, that's going to allow you to find all of the videos that use the silky bead. It also often has spotlights on those that say exactly what the difference is, or what a silky is, or a mini silky. You can watch those and you can use those as a learning tool and a learning technique, that you can see the different beads that you may have and all the different designs that are using those beads and utilizing those different types of beads. So if you had, this is a question we get all the time and I wanted to address. We have phone calls multiple times a day asking, and that little magnifying glass there, typing in the exact bead that you want to do, that's really going to be your best method for searching through those 1,000 videos that we have. So again, we have 1,000 videos to help you to learn, and I am always wondering what you guys want to see more of. So what do you want to see more of when I do the videos? There is an endless supply of designs, ideas, new products that come out, and that's one of the reasons to do these question and answer Fridays as well, that it leads to that bigger community and telling us exactly what you're struggling with, or what you want to look as far as getting design-wise, what you want to see us work with. And we ask that question a lot too, what do you want to see from us here at Potomac Bead Company? So I wanted to show you that search, because that is a huge question that we get all the time, is I have this bead, what do I make with this bead? Chances are with 1,000 videos, you can find something in there that you really like, change up the color, and use that as a search option. Because that goes along with this alternative shapes. So this alternative shapes, the next Q&A, I'm going to devote a very kind of more time to this question, because this is something that I do think is very informative. Again, we have tons and tons and tons of products here in the store. So we know we have kind of customers in from all over today, from Georgia and from North Carolina, and when you come in, I don't expect you for every video to rush out and grab every bead. If you're watching the tidal wave, you may already have all of these materials, but I'm not expecting you to say run out and get all of the materials for this Jurassic bracelet. What can you then use that you can say, oh, I want to do this bead, and I like that design, but what bead could I use? Do I have a bead already in place? So the kind of one that I wanted to start out with, because I have it sitting here, some different examples, let me gather them up, is going to be, everybody says, I want you to use older beads a lot of times in my comments. I want you to use older beads like Super Duo beads. Super Duo beads have really only been out for 6 years, maybe 7 years. The industry is constantly changing. There's going to be new beads that come out. They kind of started the two-hold wave and innovation of a lot of the Czech beads. But guess what? Trends kind of change, new things come out. If somebody said to me, you have to wear the same pair of shoes for the rest of your life, I would say, forget that. I want a new pair of shoes every week, really, but I want to be able to kind of change up what I'm designing, what I'm looking, and that's where it's so much fun to play with these new shapes. And that was the idea of the grab bags too, was to get those new shapes in your hands. But a lot of you have a ton of Super Duos. If you have a ton of Super Duos, you can look on the YouTube channel for Super Duos. Sometimes you can also switch out the Super Duo patterns for our actual iris duos. They're a little bit thicker, but you're gonna get that same shape. Check out rulas that you can do. You can check out bar beads. So kind of look at the general shape that they are. These are brick beads. So they're all gonna be that kind of long, narrow, two-hole beads. Obviously, patterns are going to be designed that if you are looking for a pattern, it's not going to look the exact same. The Super Duo snake, which is just peyote Super Duo, it's not going to look the exact same with a bar, but you can do it with a bar because it's a two-hold long-shaped bead. You can do it with an iris duo because it's a two-hold long-shaped bead. You can change it up and even do it with a beam. So don't be afraid to kind of go in there. Here's showing the rula bead too. Don't be afraid to go in there and try some of these new shapes. So just to give you a little sampling of it, I have the bar beads can sometimes be done with Super Duos, infinities, half telas, mini duos, checkmate diamonds, storm duos, super 8s. Those can all work because they're all generally the same size. Again, if you have something that you're doing like the Caribbean breeze where you're looking and bezeling, it may not be the exact same number of seed beads that you need in the middle. You may need to add one more 15, but I could pick up storm duos and do the same bezel setting for these SS39 chatons, get a little bit of a different look with that edge, and have a project that is based on another project, but just substituting that bead in. So Mini said the bracelet here, doing it with half telas and even with quarter telas. Two-hold peyote works out well with almost every bead. Every bead that we get in, I always try it out in peyote stitch. I would say somebody asked, actually, in your opinion, what is the best bead weaving stitch to create a fairly thin tubular chain? Do I use Delicas? Do I want to use it as a chain for a bezeled cabochon, but I don't want the tube to be too bulky and too chunky? So she wants to do a chain that goes around the necklace. And the same thing, kind of showing here, just this chain. Here's a chain from one of our, I think it was Night at the Oscars, Showstopper. Here's just a simple seed beaded chain that was produced with just doing a little bit of a 2-needle right angle weave. So you can look at that 2-needle right angle weave chain and how to do simple stitches. It doesn't need to be a herringbone or a peyote stitch. You can also just do a little right angle weave stitch. If you want that tubular look, I prefer, as far as time-wise goes, I'm not going to use a peyote. I'll use a herringbone. I have a sundial necklace that has a tubular herringbone rope. Check that out if you want something very, very slender and thin. Again, with the ropes, I'm not crazy with the look of the Delicas when it comes to doing things in the round. I would look for an 11-0 seed bead, or if you want it to be really fine, you can do just 2 rows back to back of the herringbone stitch with 15-0 seed beads. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be something that is awesome to do because it's going to take a lot of time, but you will get a beautiful, almost chain look of an actual seed beaded stitch. Herringbone to me, when you're doing it in the round, goes much quicker than the tubular peyote stitch would be. Depending on the look you want to go with, back to the carrier bead cover, you could also just do a strip of peyote along the necklace. It's not going to sit kind of rounded, it'll sit flat if you're just doing the straight peyote, but keep that in mind. Any stitch will work that you can do as an actual piece of the necklace. So that's kind of that. The best bead to use, again, tubular chain, not crazy on the Delicas. I would use a regular 11-0 seed bead. If you want the nice look of an actual sterling silver chain, try out those Crystal Lab 15-0s. They are a Czech coating of, so let me grab them here. They are a Czech coating on the Miyuki seed beads. That is that bright silver. So you can go with the sterling silver coated Miyuki seed beads, or you can go with the Crystal Lab Miyuki seed beads, which are going to look essentially the same, but be a lot more affordable because they're not that sterling silver plated. I've used both, but the Crystal Lab is kind of my go-to silver. And then my go-to gold, just to let you know, is that Aztec gold or the Crystal Champagne. It's a nice soft gold that's not bright. In this example here too, I use the Aztec. Another question that people had a lot of is color selection and how you go about doing color selection. It's also the number one thing that we help customers with when they come into the store. We know that's the hardest thing. I start out with blues and I can't get away from blues. How do I get away from blue but stay in the blue color and use up my blue beads? So that's me too. I have tons and tons of blue beads, although they went out to most of you as we did the grab bags. What I'd like to say is start to gradually build other colors. It's hard for some people to say, I want to do blue. How do I add in other colors to that blue and make it work? This blue here, this neon blue in the O bead, is going to be one of my favorite colors. By adding in bright beads, it might be, whoa, way too out there for you. Start by adding in a metallic look. I think that's the easiest thing to do. If you want to get away from kind of the basics of purples or greens, you want to start out with adding metallic to it. I am a true believer that almost every design that I do is going to use a silver or gold, whether or not that's the base bead or the seed bead, because I personally think that it polishes it up a little bit. It's also going to use the metallic. Even if I'm looking at the bezel that I did here recently, I used that gunmetal, or actually the black hematite 11-0, because again, it still uses that kind of metal look to it. So I tend to use a metal style or a metal color in almost everything that I do. It's very rare to find a design of mine that does not have that silver or gold. When you are looking and designing too, my best recommendation is whatever is going to be the biggest thing in the design. If you're doing a necklace, what is going to be the first thing that you see? It's not going to be the small beads along the sides. It's going to be whatever you put in the middle or as your centerpiece. Whenever you're looking to design, if you have a pattern and you're not sure you want to do it with the colors, what is that largest bead in the pattern? So I go through my list. If you're looking at a beading magazine or you're looking at a pattern that you downloaded or bought online, what is the biggest bead in that pattern? If it's going to be a 12mm candy bead, that bead is going to dictate what color the bracelet looks like. So here I use the vitriol, but if I'm using the copper, that's going to be my biggest bead. That's going to be the one that I am going off of and picking first. When possible, the biggest thing that you are using in the project. So if I know that I'm using, you know, the Rivolis or the Chatons in this, pick those first. Go from biggest bead to smallest bead. So when I was making the rope here, I'm going from my biggest, my crystal bead, and working my way out. Going from the biggest bead to the smallest bead is going to help you with your color selection. Pick that blue big bead in the middle and then kind of gradually fade into other beads. Whatever bead you use as your largest bead, if you want that to be a lighter color and you want that lighter color to stand out, don't then pick really bright beads as your secondary beads, because those are going to start to pop out more. Start with your biggest bead, then work your way down, selecting color, because the larger bead is the one that you're generally going to see the most. Again, I have a hard time not including metallics, and I really like the look of silver and gold together, and you can look. Yeah, also Teresa has a big, awesome blog about choosing colors, because it is a hard thing. I really can't say how much it is awesome to come in here and just walk around and say, I have a great opportunity to say that color didn't work, so I'm just going to go pick something off from the wall. That's why we take a lot of time before the videos to predetermine the colors for you, so you can order just those colors since you know and like that design. But if you do have other beads at home that you want to try out or that you want to mix the color in, look at the color wheel. Ashley also had a blog on colors that go along together. It's a really good art-based blog showing the color wheel and what the different colors that are going to look nice, because sometimes there are colors that get put together that people order and I think, okay, yeah, like the Jurassic bracelet, you're having the teal with a lighter green, and that's a very standard. I have those colors, my mind goes to those colors. There's other things that people put together. Normally my palette would not go this bright and this dark. When they're put together, they look really nice. So look at that blog, check out the different color wheel, and try to experiment by starting out with the biggest bead being your favorite color, and then working other colors into it, kind of moving out from that color selection. Color selection and design selection, it's always going to be a question. It's always going to be kind of the question of the day, the question of the hour. I walk around the store constantly holding up, you know, one of the new Lunasoft cabs, like I did for this pennant, and said, okay, looking for advice from others, what would go well with it if I want to keep the orange highlighted, or if I want to make it brighter, I'm going to look for a brighter bead to go with it. If I want it to look darker, I'm going to put a darker bead around it. So just think of the light tones versus the dark tones and how those go together. If you're just joining us, again, I just want to say a little intro. If you have any additional questions, you can drop those questions down in the comments below. You can also share the video for your chance to win our blue Friday freebie grab bag that Bridget put together of beautiful blue kind of exclusives and some fun seed beads. One of my favorite gilt-lined opal seed beads is in there as well, so check that out. Going back to our questions here, I have one again with the different types of seed beads that somebody wanted to know. With the candy beads, what else can you use? So with the 12mm candy beads, there's not going to be many other than the 2-hold flower. There's a 2-hold flower that's going to be about the same size, that 12mm. So you're not going to have a ton for the 2mm or the 12mm that you can switch out. If you do need a design specific 2-hold, you're going to look and make sure that you have the 2-hold. So we have the 2-hold candy bead in that same size, as well as the 2-hold flower. When you're talking a smaller candy bead, the smaller candy bead is 6mm. So when you're looking, you can look at 8mm. You can look at 7mm, and sometimes even going down to 6mm that you can use a round trio. You can use a honeycomb. You can look for some of the cabs too, the Checkmate cabs, and then there's also the Czech cabs, which are 6mm. So again, just look in shape. 1mm off sometimes can throw off a pattern. Sometimes you're fine if you're looking for an 8mm versus a 7mm, or a 6 versus a 5. The hard thing is, for some of those patterns, you're going to need to try it out. And I know the idea a lot of times of watching a YouTube video is you would not believe how long I sat and it took to figure out the spacing on this super simple project. So somebody else had said once that people said her YouTube videos were so simple and so easy, and why would people watch? People don't realize a lot of time how much time it takes to get those simple, easy counts for you. I think I did about 6 to 7 different attempts on the amount of seed beads to go around the size, how to get them kind of covered up. And I loved that comment. It was Gina Moody, she wouldn't mind me saying it, that people don't realize until you do it and you try to pick up and do new designs and new stitches and figure out the exact spacing of super duos that you need around embezzled, how much time and effort goes in to creating those simple designs for you. So when you do pick them up, it's nice and simple figuring out, and you don't have to struggle with figuring out that seed bead count. We already have it figured out for you. Because you already have those figured out, try those different beads in, and you may have to add 1 or 2 seed beads here and there, but try it. That again, just like you're going to kind of go to school, just in that same reference, as you're trying to become better, you're trying to become a better beader, try out those new beads and try to do those things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you only know if you are trying. So add in the comment section of a lot of the YouTube videos that I do, people will say, can I use a brick in place of an ios, in place of a rula, in place of a Czechs? Try it out. Sometimes, yes, it'll work identically, but a lot of times I don't have the time to try out every single bead in that pattern. It would take me forever. So try it out, and if you do try it out, please comment in the video comments below, hey, I did the same design, but instead of super duos, I used infinity beads. Awesome. Take a picture. You can even put that in the comments and show what it is, because that way you're helping other people in the community as well, because you also took the time to figure it out, and to share that knowledge and to grow that community is awesome, and that's why we do this. So let's see, where am I for time? I don't have my watch on today. 5 more minutes, that's it. Only 5 more minutes. Okay, today kind of flew by. I also had a question that somebody picked certain things off the wall earlier and said, what are these? So those of you, this kind of goes back to the beginning of, you can use existing jewelry that you have to make new jewelry, or to take those, if you missed in the beginning, you can take jewelry everywhere. You can take lobster clasps, make your necklaces for summer into eyeglass holders. So take the eyeglass holder, put a lobster on the end, and then you can clip it on to any necklace that you already have. You get to wear that to the back, or you can wear your sunglasses to the back, have your necklace in the front, and then flip it around when you want to put them on. That way you have that fun design along your back that's like some beach swag wear. Going along to that is the badge holder. Same deal if you know somebody that works with badges or has to wear a badge to work. We have the little badge holders. Think about that too as you're going to work. You don't need to have a boring piece of rope. Check out some of the other fun designs. Say you want to even go back to this necklace here, have that pendant kind of hang above. That is what these little clips are. So somebody asked earlier, what the heck is that little clip? It's a badge holder. So look, you can always dress up anything, even if you have to go for to work and you have to wear a badge every day. Nobody says you can't make it fun and funky and to wear. We even have a number of Facebook community members that make entire badge covers for kind of those pulley badges, but that's what the little clips are for. Somebody asked if they were to hold the ends of your wire. You could do that. You could use them as bead stoppers, but they're designed to actually make lanyards that you can have and to hold on to. Also a great kids project. You can have them make something beaded and then hang it on their backpack that they can take it off and on for that. One last question that somebody had, and this was one of my friends had this question and said that they were taking their child to camp for the first time and wanted to make sure that their child knew their phone number. So as we kind of cover that up, one thing you can actually do is make that personalized jewelry. So think about the fact that we have stamping supplies. You can do seed beads in terms of numbers. You can also personalize. I have a YouTube video back around Mother's Day doing all of that personalization of the jewelry and kind of make it yours. So think about those different ways that you can take the clasp and you can print something out. You can drop some resin in there. You can put a bracelet on somebody, that you can put seed beads. You can do the mother's things as well. So check out some of those other videos to kind of do that as well. One last time, I will say that if you do share, comment, and if you continue to comment, continue to ask questions, I can go to the end after the process. We'll add them to next week's when I go over that alternative bead shapes more. I'm going to gather up samples for you and kind of string them with 2 other designs to show you. as well as doing blog posts about that. That's kind of an endless list. And what I'll keep doing is checking back on that alternative bead shape list. Again, if you comment below or you share, you get your chance to win this fun bag. Leave about a couple hours, probably about 3 hours till we pick somebody. We're going to pick somebody at random for that, and make sure that you check back so you can see if you're the winner and get us your information. Sometimes we get people that win and then they never tell us how to ship it to them. So if you're not, if we don't have your shipping address, make sure that we get that and that you contact us for that. One last thing that I wanted to say is that we have really appreciated growing this community, appreciate the questions that you ask. Check out our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. We've also set up a program there for mentors and mentees, people to help people kind of bead along and increase their skills and to use those tips to make people better at the craft. Keep in mind that there are usually a lot more people that want to learn than there are teachers. So the teachers only take on so many people. So if you are waiting for that mentor-mentee kind of link up and you think that you'd be a great mentor, please check that out and help somebody else learn along the way. So keep in mind that if you like this video, that is awesome for me. Stay tuned for next week, that we'll do another hour coming at you live 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will try to answer as many questions as I can get through, show you more things that just came in or more things that we have, including, I have a whole tray up here that I didn't get to, showing you some new storm duos in the etched colors that I think Teresa is playing with already, and some newer Czech glass beads. If you're not a member of our email, that you don't get our emails, we do that twice a week generally for you to show you all those new products that we have, introduce you to new videos that we have, and keep you connected with everything that is out there. So if you want to, you can also subscribe to our emails and we'll be happy to get more information out to you as well that way. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being contributors to this question and answer. And until next Friday, keep the questions coming. I'll gather them all up on Friday morning and hit as many of them to get you that idea of making you a better beader. As well, check out that first new YouTube tutorial, those quick better beader videos that are some of these essentials, tricks and tips and things to know. Thanks so much and enjoy the rest of your beautiful Friday wherever you may be tuning in from, here from Potomac Beads Live.